John Maxwell material there all the way through October 13th, one Friday a month. Register at Eventbrite also. If you have any questions, you can email me or give me a call. I've got to run up to the chamber to a meeting. I'm going to drop some flyers off at the back table there at the door, so grab them on your way out. You all have a great day and enjoy this fantastic North Dakota weather. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Gustavo San Jose. I'm here with Code Connect, and I just wanted to tell you guys about our next meetup. It's called CSS Doesn't Suck If It's Sassy. I didn't come up with a title, but I think it's great. If you guys don't know what CSS is the programming language that makes the internet look pretty. Otherwise, it would be really, really, really ugly, actually. So Jay Morgan is going to tell us how working with CSS can actually be enjoyable. A lot of developers actually don't like CSS because it has some nuances about it, but he's going to give us some really good tips, really good advice on how to improve our workflow with CSS. So if you know anyone that's interested in web development or, how maybe making animations or anything like that in the web, let them know about it, because I think this is going to be a good meetup for them to come and learn a ton of stuff. So it's going to be May 31st, 5:30 to 7:30 at CoSchedule. It's totally free. There'll be pizza probably and some sort of drinks there too. So bring a friend and don't be afraid to show up. So find us on Meetup on Twitter and Facebook at CodeConnectND.
Awesome. Any other announcements? I just wanted to mention candidate forums are up on freetv.org, so everybody likes to watch that stuff. You can watch it on demand, but educate yourself on the candidates and the issues. We've got an election coming up June 12th. Is it the 12th? June 12th. So check that out. Dakota Media Access and the League of Women Voters have been doing a great job getting those up online so that everybody can watch them. Okay, so we're going to get cracking. Janelle is our presenter. She didn't give me a bio, so I was just going to list a couple things that I know about her. She is a cheese lover. She loves cheese. She comes to our office and eats a whole bunch of Baby Bells and just leaves red wax everywhere. She went to UMary, right? I remember that. She's from Walla Walla, Washington. So that's probably the basics, right? Okay, awesome. Help me welcome Janelle.
All right, so thankfully I will introduce myself again, but thank you, Kate. I do love Baby Bells. So this is a non-traditional 1 million cups, so for those of you that are here for the very first time, bear with this. We're actually going to be talking about 1 million cups at this 1 million cups. So if you have ever emailed me or texted me, or if you work with me, you know that I love GIFs. And so this will be a GIF-filled presentation, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So I will kind of go through 4 different sections of this presentation. I will introduce myself. I'll tell you what I'm doing on stage, why I'm here and why I'm talking to you. We'll cover a lot of details about 1 million cups, what it is, how it started, what we've accomplished so far in 2018, and then I'll wrap up by telling you why I was in Istanbul, Turkey, which was an awesome experience, and I'm happy to share more about that. So, who I am. My name is Janelle, and I am from Walla Walla, Washington. Walla Walla is in the southeastern part of the state. Everybody thinks that it rains there, but the Cascades run right through the state, so actually the weather is pretty dry. But Walla Walla, Washington, population about 45,000. When I first moved here, I was talking to somebody about the small southeastern Washington town that I was from, and they were like, well, define small. And I was like, well, 45,000. And she was from Bowbells, North Dakota. So I quickly determined that, okay, I need to rethink how I define small. So Walla Walla is known for its wine. Every time I go home, there are a dozen more wineries that have popped up in Walla Walla. There's probably close to 200 vineyards, tasting rooms, and wineries in Walla Walla. So I've watched tourism in Walla Walla really change over the last 6 years that I've been living here. But it's a great city. The town's so nice they named it twice. I put this picture on here because I started working at a strawberry farm when I was 12 years old. And if Kirk and Nancy Clicker are watching, I owe a great deal of my work ethic and my inspiration to the Clicker family. They're a big agricultural family in the Walla Walla Valley, and they employ youth to harvest their strawberries. Strawberries are like one of 2 crops that 12-year-olds are actually like legally able to harvest. But I spent 9 summers. It's like strawberries and green beans. I don't ask me why. But I started when I was 12, and I worked there for 9 summers. And I worked my way through the ranks as a clicker picker, is what we call them. You can spot them in the Walla Walla Valley because their hands are purple all summer long. And so that's something that Walla Walla really celebrates, is that 140 to 160 youth are employed during the summer. And so, like I said, I spent 9 summers there. I worked my way through the ranks. I was managing the field by age 16, and then managing the processing plant by 17, moved into the office and was doing payroll for these pickers, and learned a lot about the wholesale and retail processes for this strawberry farm. So that's a huge part of who I am. I graduated from the Walla Walla Community College, which is actually one of the number one community colleges in the nation. I don't know if North Dakota has an equivalent program, but in Washington it's called a Running Start program. If it helps to think of it like AP classes, do that. But my junior and senior year, I was taking classes at the community college in Walla Walla. So when I graduated from high school, I also graduated the same weekend. I made my parents sit through 2 graduation ceremonies that were 4 hours long each. But I graduated with my associate in arts degree. And then I moved to North Dakota, and my family was like, why did you move to North Dakota? But I attended the University of Mary, and I attended the University of Mary for a couple reasons. The price was right. There's another program that my parents took advantage of in Washington State, and again, I'm not sure if North Dakota has an equivalent, but it's called the GET program, and I forget what GET, what that acronym stands for. But essentially, when I was 6 years old, they put a small sum of money into an account, and then that grew with me as I went through grade school and middle school and high school, and it rose with inflation and the cost of education. And so when I graduated, I knew, here's this small sum of money that I have, and it can only be used towards education. My dream school was Gonzaga University in Spokane, and that money would have gotten me through like a year and a half. So the price was right at the University of Mary. I graduated debt-free, which for a business and finance degree, I was like, that's okay. I studied in Rome. The University of Mary has an incredible Rome program. I'd encourage any Mary student to go and take advantage of that. And then I also took advantage of a program called Global Village, which was at Lehigh University in 2015. So that's sort of who I am. And now I'm going to talk about why I'm here. My family was confused as to why I moved to North Dakota for school. I think my family was more shocked that I chose to stay here. So I'm going to tell you sort of my personal retention story because it has everything to do with this entrepreneurial ecosystem. And you'll hear me say that word throughout the rest of my talk today. But I started coming to 1 Million Cups in 2014 because of this guy. Carl Sovak took me to 1 Million Cups a couple times, and I became addicted to it. And I was rearranging my schedule at the University of Mary to be able to make the 9 o'clock hour and to make that drive to Dakota Stage Wednesday mornings. And so Carl introduced me to Molly Sullivan, now Molly Harrington, and then that led to an internship at the Idea Center. And while I was at the Idea Center, they were planning a startup weekend, and they said, you should participate. You're a University of Mary student, you're one of our interns, we're organizers of this event, and you should attend. It's going to be a lot of fun. And so I did, and I took second place with a couple of my friends. Hannah and Jenna are both at Bismarck Magazine now, and it was great. I met a lot of really, really cool people, and including this guy, the software engineer that joined my team. He and I have been dating for 2 years now, but he was the nerdy software engineer that joined our startup group, and it was super fun. I also met these 2 people, didn't have a clue who they were, but they made an impact on that weekend. And the more I attended startup drinks, which were happening pretty regularly, the more I got to know these 2. And they told me about a company called Today Made that they owned. And they said, we've got a position available as a bookkeeper, and you're graduating, and you don't have any plans after graduation, so we think you should come work for us. And so I literally was invited because of a startup weekend, And then continuing conversations at Startup Drinks, I was asked to apply. And so I joined the Today Made team in 2015, and then Justin and Garrett said, well, okay, we're going to sell Today Made, and there's this thing called Co-Schedule that we're looking to grow. And so in 2015, I was employee number 10, and we're over 60 employees now. And if you don't know the Co-Schedule story, I'm happy to share that with you. There's a couple of Co-Schedule people in the audience as well. And so all this time, I was continuing to organize 1 Million Cups. I went from an attendee to a volunteer to an organizer, and we've grown Startup Drinks. And so this was sort of the stickiness of the entrepreneurial ecosystem that got me to stay, and that's why I'm still here. So I have purpose, and I have an awesome team of people. So we're going to talk about 1 Million Cups and what it is. So this will be great for those of you that are new. Again, this is a non-traditional format, but for those of you that have been coming every single week, you're going to probably know some of this stuff as well. So 1 Million Cups was started in Kansas City, Missouri. It was launched, I think it's 6 years old now, 6 or 7 years old. But it was sort of like born in Kansas City, Missouri. And the question that Kansas City was trying to ask themselves or was trying to solve is, who are our entrepreneurs and how do we help them? How do we corral our entrepreneurs and the people that help entrepreneurs, and how do we get them together regularly, and how can we help them? And so the format was sort of born in Kansas City. So there's an entrepreneur on stage, they give a 6 to 10 minute pitch, and then the audience has conversation with them. And there's a ton of awesome people in the audience that provide value and feedback and kind of continue to foster this entrepreneurial ecosystem. So Bismarck launched 1 Million Cups in June of 2014. We were the first 1 Million Cups in the state of North Dakota, which is why we have hashtag 1MCND. And since we launched in 2014, we've hosted 194 entrepreneurs on our stage, which is an awesome thing to celebrate. For those of you that like charts, here's some charts. This is only 2018. So when I talk about the rebrand that we went through, this is sort of January 1st of this year on. So we've got total page likes on Facebook, and we've got social engagement from January through last night, around midnight, which is when I was wrapping up this presentation. So I think it's really, really great that Bismarck has breathed new life into an event that is 5 years old. We've doubled our audience. Again, this is the beginning of 2017. This is when we took November and December off. We changed a lot of our processes, and we really thought, okay, how do we make this bigger, and how do we make it better? And so I added the rocket ship, but we've more than doubled our attendance since January of this year. And that's because you guys are showing up, and I have to believe that it's because you find value in the types of people that we're bringing on stage and the people that you're networking with in the audience. So why did I go to Turkey? And I'm going to explain that here next. So I was chosen, I applied to coach people that are wanting to launch a format similar to 1 Million Cups internationally. 1 Million Cups only exists in the United States. Like I said, it was born in Kansas City. It's been raised in the United States. There's 170 plus different communities across the nation that are doing 1 Million Cups every single Wednesday, 9 a.m. And so there's a group of us that are now coaching. We're calling it Startup Huddle, and I guess I can talk about that a little bit later. But I was chosen to go to Istanbul. Cameron Cushman, he's one of the co-founders of 1 Million Cups. Tyler is from Daytona Beach. I represented Bismarck. Kim Lane represented Conway, Arkansas, population like 46,000. And then Kyle Smith represented Kansas City. And Lana represented Miami. So those of us were chosen, 6 of us were chosen, and we went to a conference called GEC, which is hosted by GEN, Global Entrepreneurship Network. And so if you think of the Global Entrepreneurship Network, there's something like 170 countries involved, huge network of startup champions on a global scale. And so these are sort of all of the programs that they have. But I was invited to go to the Global Forum, which is the Global Entrepreneurship Congress, for 5 days. And I was asked to coach a program called Startup Huddle. And Startup Huddle when I don't pronunciate, it sounds like Startup Huddle. Startup Huddle is the exact same format as 1 Million Cups. But one interesting thing that I learned while I was over in Istanbul and talking to all of these startup champions in different cities across the world is that 1 million something, 1 million cups is definitely an American thing. We run on caffeine, we have coffee, far too much of it sometimes. And so how do we share the platform and the concept of this event, but how do we scale it on a global level? And so we're calling it Startup Huddle because coffee doesn't apply to everybody, right? I was talking to somebody in Russia, and she said, well, coffee is not really a big thing. If we can call it 1 million vodkas, that would be great, and we could host it in the evening. And so, 1 million Turkish delights. And so it's just sort of, there were a lot of things that I learned working with people internationally about how to brand this. And so Jen, Global Entrepreneurship Network, is scaling Startup Huddle. But we can think of Startup Huddle as the exact same format with a little bit more flexibility with the name, with the time of day, with the location. And so that's why I was in Istanbul. The Kaufman Foundation actually invited those 6 of us that were on the screen to go to Istanbul and to coach. So we spent about 3 hours presenting, and then we had a lot of one-on-one time. And now I'm coaching individuals in Perth, Australia, a couple individuals in India, one lady that I met from Turkey. She's in Istanbul. And so I'm emailing them, we're going on Skype calls, and I'm working with Jen to launch Startup Huddle in these cities worldwide. And they thought I was qualified to do that because I've been organizing this 1 million cups for 2+ years. So, there we go. So I forgot I had that slide. So 1 million cups, US, Startup Huddle, global. That's all I've got. Let's open it up for Q&A. 9:24. Don's going to be our...
That's exactly what I look like most when I dance. But Don's going to be our mic runner. If you're joining us on Facebook Live and you want to ask a question, just use the hashtag 1MCND, and Ashton will try and find it for you and ask it for you as well. So if you're new to 1 Million Cups, what we do is we have a longer Q&A session. It could be, you could ask Janelle a question, you could give her some advice. So feel free to just shoot your hand up and ask a question. Go for it.
Good morning. Thank you, Janelle. That was great. So the first question I have for you is around kind of the strategic focus of Start Bismarck going forward. Mm-hmm. So I'll pose it this way. If you had unlimited funding, unlimited resources, what would you do? How would you deploy that?
Yep. And I guess this is one thing that I didn't touch on during my presentation. But I have since cut my hours back at CoSchedule. I'm now part-time at CoSchedule, and I'm full-time at Start Bismarck. I don't know how we define full-time. If it's 40 hours a week, I've been full-time at Start Bismarck for a long time. But part-time at CoSchedule, full-time at Start Bismarck, which means I have no time personally. But that's great. I love it. So as far as the strategic plan, like over the next 12 months, with unlimited funds, holy cow, we could do a lot. I think people and facilities are obviously like your highest expenses. So if the sky's the limit, I would hire a team of people to help me host 1 million cups. I still do a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff, which is why Kate didn't have a bio for me, is because I was doing this presentation. And
I thought I gave a good bio.
You did. But to answer your question, unlimited funds, I think people, teammates, and expanding events like this and being able to have the bandwidth to do more would be awesome.
Okay, other questions? Throw your hand up. I have a question. So Janelle, we're in a similar situation where you work for an organization whose primary purpose is not to make money, but to forward a mission, but you still need money to do it. So it's kind of tough. You're almost running 2 businesses. You're raising your own salary and doing your own job.
Right.
How has that been fun or challenging as you're making the transition?
Right. I think there's sort of this like collective frustration with the process or like the concept of social impact organizations. because I need to start Bismarck has been something that I do in my free time up until 6 weeks ago, which is when my transition from co-schedule to Start Bismarck sort of happened. It happened in March. And so now I am thinking of Start Bismarck as a long-term strategic plan, and I'm thinking of it as a business. So yeah, there's been a ton of challenges. I've said I don't know more times in the last 6 weeks than I think I've ever said in my life. But I've had some really, really crucial conversations with economic development groups in Bismarck that want to see these types of events continue. So I do believe that there are plenty of people who understand the concept of the entrepreneurial ecosystem and are feeding entrepreneurs into events like this. And so I'm excited to see what the next 6 months have the next 6 weeks are going to be crazy, because I've been in the job for 6 weeks.
We'll still be your cheese supplier
Okay.
while you're getting up and running. There's a question in the back.
I actually have two questions. Number one, all the stuff that you do, it's so wide and varied, all the different things that you do. What did you want to do when you were younger, like when you were a kid, was the first one. And the second one is, what does your day-to-day look like? When you go to work for startup, what do you do? Like, what are the things that you're doing to achieve your goals?
Okay, to answer your first question, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I would love for somebody to help me with that, but I don't think anybody really has it figured out. I knew, because of the strawberry picking, I knew I didn't want to be manual labor. I knew I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life, which I thank my parents for putting me into the strawberry field, so that I knew that I wanted to go to college and I needed an education. So no, I don't have any idea what I want to do career-wise. This has been an absolutely extraordinary opportunity, and I think, when I told you about the stickiness of Bismarck for me personally, I could have never predicted that as a graduate that was walking across the stage at UMary, and that was 3 years ago. I've been in Bismarck for almost 6.5 years. So I'm excited to see where my career goes, my career, quote unquote. But it's been a phenomenal ride so far. What was the second part of your question? Oh, my day-to-day. That's also tough. I do a lot. 1 Million Cups is a huge program. If you think about how many people are here today, there's a lot that goes in behind the scenes. Organizationally, 1 Million Cups is a huge part of what I do. I do the newsletter. I have meetings. But like I said, I'm also part-time at co-schedule still, so there's still a ton of responsibility with the co-schedule team that I have. So I think one of my biggest challenges is staying focused. So I welcome any advice that you guys have on how to manage time and make sure that the meetings that I'm taking and the people that I'm talking to are laying the right foundation.
Yeah.
Janelle, do you have set hours at co-schedule?
Yes. Yep, that helps. That helps as well. So are you wanting the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
It's okay.
Okay.
The set hours
Yeah,
answer is
exactly.
fine. Thanks. I know that helps.
So my role at co-schedule, like I said, I was taken on as the bookkeeper, and that quickly became, it's a startup, so I wore 5 to 7 hats at a time. So I was doing all of the administrative stuff. I was doing all of the finance, all of the HR in Bismarck and in Fargo. And so I was sort of I dubbed myself VP of miscellaneous things, because I was ordering dish soap but also paying quarterly taxes for co-schedule. And so I've sort of become an integral part of that culture. And so, yeah, the co-schedule hours that I have are still during the 9 to 5, which is when the rest of the team is at the co-schedule office, which I love.
Janelle, how does Start Bismarck make money? What are your revenue sources?
We have some awesome sponsors that have been with us since the start. When we put their logos up on the screen, they are the ones that believe in us. And up until now, we've sort of had to just maintain, right? We keep the lights on to go to stage. We give away gift cards for different things. But we've had enough sponsors up to this point to sort of maintain, because nobody was employed full-time. But as we continue to scale, I'm exploring a ton of different opportunities.
Question.
So beyond showing attendance numbers and stuff, how do you quantify the impact that Start Bismarck has had in Bismarck locally? I mean, the global thing is super cool, but how do you quantify the impact you're having here?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. That's something that I think I'll continue to to figure out myself, and that's all. This is a giant experiment, right? I don't ever want to think that there's a roadmap and a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. But yeah, those KPIs, I'm determining those myself. But I think the stories that I get from people, the stories that I am able to tell personally, and knowing that, okay, for every one person that comes to me, sorry, and says that 1 million cups was impactful or helped them take the next step in their pursuit of entrepreneurship, or the next like strategic move in their business, I have to believe that for every one of those stories I hear, there's 14 that happened without me hearing. And so I think one of the ways that you can continue to inspire events like this and continue to like positively affirm the work that we're doing is to tell me those stories. Like Start Bismarck needs to celebrate those wins and those successes. Ashton referenced the Chicago Tribune article that was posted earlier this week. If that's Chicago's perspective of Bismarck, and we can share that link on our social. But Bismarck needs to think of ourselves that way too, and we need to celebrate every single one of you that's in this room and the things that you're doing.
Question.
So Janelle, you had mentioned that you're mentoring some groups across the world now. Mm-hmm. What else do you plan on doing, or what else does GEN, Global Entrepreneurial Network, have planned for you?
Past the 12-month mentorship, I'm not quite sure. There's a huge opportunity for the Bismarck Entrepreneurial Ecosystem Builders to join that network. They are doing global work worldwide, which is super, super cool. I'm not quite sure what my involvement with Jen will look like past those 12 months. GEC, the Global Entrepreneurship Congress, which is the annual meeting, there were like 3,000 people at that conference. It was massive. I felt like a guppy in an ocean. But that happens every single year. And so my assumption is they'll bring in new 1 Million Cups organizers to go coach the next wave of Startup Huddle captains. But I mean, the Bismarck entrepreneurial ecosystem could absolutely tap into that network globally. I think that's a question that we should always like kind of chew on. And there's huge opportunity for Bismarck businesses, Bismarck entrepreneurs, to expand globally. So we sort of have to think about that. Like, are there entrepreneurs in our ecosystem in Bismarck that could tap into an international market? If yes, how do we sort of use the GEN network as a catalyst? If not, how do we change or how do we get our entrepreneurs to think on a global scale?
Question in the back, David.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear you discuss in a little bit more detail and maybe compare and contrast the way we do 1 million cups here in Bismarck versus how it looks in other places. You mentioned this entrepreneurial ecosystem as a reason why you stayed in Bismarck. So maybe just kind of dig into that a little bit more too.
Yeah, so 1 Million Cups is done, like I said, the format stays the same largely across the U.S. Bismarck's is definitely one of the highest in numbers. If you look at some of the 1 Million Cups meetups that are happening, even in Portland, it's not unlikely that they only have 15 to 20 people. And because this program is only 6 years old, and communities have come on at different times, there are different waves of generations of volunteers that sort of help foster this. But Bismarck's is definitely one of the strongest. Fargo's is definitely one of the strongest. It was really cool for me to go sit at breakfast in Istanbul, Turkey, and talk to these other 1 Million Cups organizers from around the U.S., and they knew about North Dakota's reputation for 1 Million Cups, which is really great because we have one of the largest. There's Grand Forks, Bismarck, Fargo. I think there's one happening.
Williston, I think, does once a month.
Once a
maybe?
month, right. And so, I mean, nationally, 1 Million Cups in North Dakota is very strong, and the momentum behind it is great. Does that answer your question? Other people meet in coffee shops. They meet at universities. They approach sponsorships in a different way. There's really a lot of creativity in each community.
We talk a little bit about the other brands kind of under Start Bismarck, or, it's like we were saying that you were the mama bear, and then there's some baby bears.
Yep.
I mean, they're cute baby bears, not babies, but baby bears.
Yep. So we're thinking of Start Bismarck as sort of this umbrella, and the brands underneath of it would definitely be, I spend a good deal of my time. So Jim, maybe this answers some of your question. Like I'm supporting community builders like Ashton and Makewell's efforts. That has now sort of like that was an event or a meetup that has like graduated from Start Bismarck. Like we think of it as like being graduated. We should have a graduation ceremony, Ashton. But during like the infancy stage of event coordination, putting people in communication with each other, my network has grown tremendously over the couple years that I've been involved, and so being able to make those partnerships for Ashton, I become a feeder for Ashton. Any makers that I'm running into in Bismarck or in North Dakota as a whole, I'm sending to the Makewell Facebook page. I'm like inviting them to the community group and saying, this is an event that you really need to be a part of. It's really cool. So sort of telling that story for her. But letting Makewell do, like, I would never be able to do what Ashton's doing, but I see it as a crucial piece of Bismarck, right? There wasn't a community of creatives and makers that existed, and so now here's this great and beautiful thing that Bismarck has, and Start Bismarck's job is to celebrate that. Same with Code Connect. I will, sort of help logistically with Gustavo's tech meetups, because there hasn't been a tech meetup that's happened on a consistent basis that's been growing in attendance in Bismarck, and it's a really good thing for ITD engineers to collaborate with NISC engineers, to collaborate with co-schedule to collaborate with remote engineers, and so to have that ability to have a tech meetup in a city where tech isn't largely accessible for engineers is another thing that I see the benefits of, and so I'll spend time and energy and effort kind of fostering that as well.
Question. There we go.
You kind of already said what I was going to say. But no, I was just going to go back to Jordan's questions earlier, like how do you quantify it? And I think, you and Start Bismarck helping meetups like Code Connect is a way to quantify it, because, when we started, we're like, well, I don't know if this is going to work. Well, now we've done like 6, 7,
I thought it was 8 or 9. Okay.
Something like that. I can't remember. A lot of them. But, in our attendance is consistent, and I think we are building a strong tech community in Bismarck, Mandan, where you don't think about us as a tech hub, but we have a lot of tech and engineers and, designers, and those kind of professions are actually pretty, they're all over the place in Bismarck and Mandan. So just having that community, I think it would be really important for this city and for Mandan as well, and for the state too, into the future. So I think you quantify it by looking at things like Code Connect and, getting help from Start Bismarck just to get that going. Mm-hmm. It's been awesome and just a huge part of the success that we've had.
Yeah. I also look to sort of answer Jordan's question, and then to also celebrate this thing that might happen is the fact that a Girl Develop It chapter in Bismarck it's been submitted to Girl Develop It headquarters, which I don't know where the headquarters is, but we've got 2 ladies in Bismarck, and one of whom has been a regular attendee of Code Connect, who's now been inspired and seen the traction that these types of meetups can have in Bismarck. She's got all of her ducks in a row, and she's going to launch a Girl Develop It chapter. And for those of you that don't know what Girl Develop It is, it's a national model nonprofit that has different chapters in different communities. They're teaching women to code, and so that'll be a different sort of tech meetup that spins out of Code Connect. And maybe we see hackathons start happening. Maybe we see 3D printing meetups. Because there's enough people that were interested in that to start their own thing. And so I think there's just this spiral effect that happens.
Okay, so Janelle and Kayla and Don and Madison and I were talking about this the other day. So for the newbies, we always ask the same last question at 1 million cups. But we were talking about this morning, how North Dakotans end a conversation. And so there's really 2 ways to do it. One is just to say, well, I better let you go. Or you just let the silence sit for a second and then say, I suppose, and then we could all leave.
Yeah.
So we'll ask the last question, and then we'll end today's 1 million cups. So Don, please ask our same last question we ask every week.
Well, Janelle, very proud of you. Very excited for your new venture at Start Bismarck and going like full part-time there. So, what can the Bismarck Mandan community do for you, for Start Bismarck, and all of your baby bears?
Well, funny you should ask. I knew that question was coming, and I have supporting slides. So, cue the supporting slides, JMO. Okay, so we harp on you guys every single week to download the app and check in. I'm going to encourage you and challenge you to do one thing further. I look at each of these profiles every week, and I know that Ellen Huber knows the city of Mandan like the back of her hand, and I know that Caleb Hoff owns an awesome videography group, and I know that John Bollinger is the general manager for the Bismarck Larks, and I know that Hannah Haynes owns Bismarck Magazine. But for any entrepreneur that's coming to 1 Million Cups for the first time, and there were like 6 or 8 of you that raised your hands today, think of 1 Million Cups as sort of the front porch for this ecosystem. And I want you guys to fill out your profiles so that you know who is sitting in the audience. And so tell us about yourself, put a picture in there, and really use this event as a networking thing. So do that. 2 minutes, 3 minutes. You can also, we launched this earlier this week, so I'm super excited about this. There have been a dozen people, individuals, that have asked how they can support Start Bismarck, and so we launched a Patreon account. So if you go to startbismarck.com/support, you can jump on board as a patron at $5, $15, $20. And so to be able to launch this and have like 7 people flood the inbox in the first day is really an affirmation that this is needed. And so I'm really excited about this. We launched this for individuals to be able to support. I'm always looking for business, key strategic business partners. Like I said, we've got a handful of logos on the 1 Million Cups stage. So there's a sponsorship packet that I can forward to you. But individuals can now support also. And I'm also willing to talk to you about like what you can personally give. We've got an awesome relationship with Glosser Images, and they do photos. And so how can we kind of make those trades and share resources openly? And the last thing I'll say is, well, two things. The volunteer meetings happen every other Thursday. And so I'd like you guys to know that I sit at Fireflower from 7:30 until 9:30 or noon. And that's sort of when I do my 1 Million Cups planning. And so I'd like to invite any of you guys who are interested in volunteering to show up to Fireflower. And maybe that's showing up once a month to just sort of check in. But that's sort of like we've got the cadence of that regular volunteer meeting. So come to those. I'd be more than willing to share coffee with you and talk about how you can get involved. Last thing I'll say is that we've got posters down here. I've divided them into groups. And if you've got, this would probably take like an hour and a half. But if you are interested in putting up posters, we'll do some sort of like drawing. If you get all 5 of them up, you can text my cell number and you'll like be entered to win a gift card. So this would be a really easy win for you guys to do, one-time thing. But I think that sort of encompasses the call to action. Like there's something you can do in 5 minutes, there's something you can do regularly once every couple of weeks, or there's one event or one thing that you could do one time and be done and know that you contributed to this event. And like I said, you guys are here because you find value in this, and that's something to think about and to celebrate.
Well, I suppose.
I suppose. Oh, no. I like that one more.
Everybody give it up for Janelle.
See you next week.
Just a reminder, we're here every Wednesday at 9 a.m. We will see you next week. Thank you all for coming, and become a patron. I did yesterday.
You did.
I'm not only a member. I'm just kidding. Have a great day.
Can we just wait? Can you come here, please?